The Independent Mind, Osho, Chapter 1, Discovering Life. In the coming 3 days, I will talk to you about the search for life. Before I begin talking about this search, I must first say that life is not what we understand it to be. If someone thinks darkness is light, he will not go in search of light. If someone thinks death is life, he will be deprived of life. If what we think and understand is wrong, the end result of our whole life is bound to be wrong. Our search will depend on our understanding. So the first thing I want to say is that very few people attain life. Everyone attains birth, and most people mistakenly consider birth to be life. What we know as life is just an opportunity to discover life, to find life, or to miss it. Through that opportunity, we can find life, but we can also miss it. What we know as life is only an opportunity. It's just a possibility. It is a seed out of which something may or may not blossom. Up to now, the seed of most people's life remains infertile. It is only in a very few people's lives that the seed sprouts, that flower blossoms, that fragrance comes. Unless when seeing people like Mahavira, Buddha, Krishna, and Christ, someone finds it humiliating that he too has the same seed within him and can attain the same life as theirs. All his worshipping and prayers are futile. Just to avoid this suffering, just to avoid this pain, we have turned Krishna, Buddha, and Mahavira into the blessed ones, into gods. If they were ordinary human beings like us, we would be ashamed of being human beings. If they were just like us, there would be no place, no possibility for us to escape. Just to avoid this humiliation, this pain and suffering, we have started calling them God, the Son of God, and who knows what. By calling them God, the Son of God, we have imposed a foolish thing on them. All these people were just like us, were ordinary human beings. But most human seeds are unable to blossom. Very few life seeds blossom so perfectly that a divine light starts manifesting through them. If religion has any purpose at all, it is this: our seeds should become what they are supposed to be. What is hidden within should become manifest. Unless we realize that what we are doing and the direction in which we are moving are completely wrong, no revolution will be possible. What we know as life is nothing more than a slow and gradual death, day by day. Such a lengthy death cannot be called life. We learn in every possible direction. We take 1,001 measures and make 1,001 arrangements. We do anything and everything, but all our running around is nothing more than an attempt to avoid death. Someone may be accumulating wealth, someone may be accumulating fame, and someone may be trying to become more powerful. All these efforts are just to avoid that one thing. So when death comes, we have a defense, a security arrangement to protect ourselves against it. But all these arrangements fail. Death simply comes. I am reminded of a short story. An emperor from Damascus had a dream one night in which he saw himself standing next to his horse under a tree. A dark shadow came from behind and put its hand on his shoulder. When he turned around, he became frightened. Shadow said, "I am death, and tomorrow I will be coming to take you. So be ready and make sure that you reach the chosen place." He woke up, a dream disappeared, but he was afraid. When morning came, he called all the greatest astrologers. He called renowned scholars who could interpret the dreams and asked them, "What does this dream mean?" "Last night in my dream I saw a dark shadow that put its hand on my shoulder, saying, 'I am death and tomorrow I will come to take you.'" There was not much time. He only had that day because death would be arriving in the evening. The astrologer said, "There is not much time to think. Just take the fastest horse you have and ride away from here as far as you can. The further away you can go, the better." There didn't seem to be any other option. What else could one think of? This was the only solution. He should go away as far as possible from the palace. What other way could there be to save himself? If someone had asked you, what could you have suggested? Or if someone had asked me, what else could I have said? Those astrologers advised rightly. Man's mind cannot think further than this. It was a clear-cut thing. He should ride away from the palace to save himself. The emperor obviously had no shortage of fast horses. He had the fastest and best. He called for one of the fastest horses, mounted it, and it started running. The horse ran as fast speed, and seeing this rapid speed, slowly Emperor became very relaxed. He gained confidence. He would go as far as possible. Slowly, the capital city was left far behind. The horse continued running at the same fast pace. The emperor did not take a rest. He neither ate any food nor drank any water. Who would stop? Who would eat food or drink water when he was being chased by death? Afternoon came. The king had ridden far from his palace. He was happy. Up until the afternoon he had been sad. But by late afternoon he started humming songs. Just as the sun was setting, he went into a nearby mango grove, tied up his horse and stood under a tree. He was relaxed. He was about to express his thankfulness to God that he had come far enough, when the same hand that he had seen the night before in his dream touched his shoulder. He became frightened. He turned around carefully and saw the dark shadow standing there. The shadow said to him, "I was very worried whether you'd be able to reach this far or not. As this is the place where you are destined to die. I was wondering how it would be possible for you to travel such a long distance. But your horse was so fast, and you rode very well. You have come at the right time. No matter how far we may run, it is going to happen. It makes no difference whether you have had the dream or not. This is bound to happen. One day you will meet death at the place where it's supposed to be met. The directions we are running in may be different. This is possible, but ultimately it won't make much difference. Someday, under some tree, a hand will be placed on your shoulder. Then you will find yourself meeting the one you were running away from. No matter where we may run, we only run toward death. The very running takes us to death. Whoever runs will reach death. It is possible that a poor man may run very slowly. He does not have a horse. A rich man may run with a bigger horse. And the emperors may run with a fast horse, but eventually the people without horses will reach the same place, death, as the people with horses have reached. Then what is the solution? What is the path? The first thing I would like to tell you is that whatever you are doing will simply take you to death. Even in the past, whatever people have been doing has taken them to death. Very few people have escaped death. What they have done to transcend death, you are not doing at all. Whatever preparations you are making, they are simply preparations for death. It is possible that deep down you have the desire to know and discover life. In reality, there is not a single person who does not have the desire to find life. And yet, there is some kind of madness, some deep madness, which has afflicted the whole of humanity. As soon as a newborn child comes into the world, he is initiated into same madness. Humanity is afflicted by a deep and fundamental insanity, and we initiate our new generation of children into that madness. It is utterly dangerous to be sane in this world. A sane person has to pay a heavy price for his sanity. So I am going to talk to you about how to get rid of the state of deep madness that has its grip on humanity. If you don't try to find a way out, death will be the outcome. So tonight, think and contemplate on this. If whatever you are doing only takes you to death, then what is the significance in doing it? Life is an opportunity. Whatever moment we have lost, there is simply no way of getting them back. The opportunity life brings can be used in many ways. Whatever we do with it changes our life accordingly. Some people use it to earn wealth. For their whole life, they use all the opportunities of life, put their energy into earning wealth. But when they come face to face with that, all their wealth becomes useless. Some people toil their whole life to use this opportunity to attain fame and prestige just so their ego is fulfilled. But when death comes, all their ego, fame, and prestige become futile. So, what is the criterion that your life has not been in vain? The only criterion is that when death confronts you, all that you have earned in life should not be worthless. When you face death, however you have used the opportunity of life, its meaningfulness should remain intact. Only that which is meaningful in the face of death is truly meaningful. Everything else is worthless. I repeat, that which remains meaningful in the face of death, that alone is meaningful, and everything else is worthless. Very few people have this criterion in their minds. Very few people have their consideration. I would ask you to think over whether you have it or not. Think about this. Whatever I accumulate by running my whole life, peace, godliness, or wealth, fasting for austerity, earning fame, writing novels, creating paintings, or singing songs. In the end, in the face of death, when my whole life is put to the ultimate test, will these things have any significance or not? If they won't, it is better to be aware of it this very day. And it is better to move in the direction where you can create such a richness, such power, such energy within your being than when you encounter death, you will have something within you that is unaffected by death, which even death cannot destroy. It is possible, and if it weren't possible, all religions would be simply nonsense. It has happened before. It can happen even today. It can happen in everyone's life. But neither does it fall from the sky, nor can you get it through charity, nor can it be stolen. And it can't be attained for free, just by sitting at the feet of some awakened master. Nobody can hand it to you. It can only be given birth by you. It can only be created by your own effort, by your own life and determination, by putting all your energy into it. But as long as we feel that what we are doing is perfectly right, as long as the way we are living seems right to us, we can take steps in that direction. The way to give birth to this awareness is to appraise your life as if you are facing death. One day, you will have to appreciate it anyway in the face of death, but then there is nothing you can do about it. Bernard Shaw once said that there should be a court in the world where a person has to appear every 3 years and prove that in those years his life has been meaningful. It was just a joke. Would it be possible to have such courts anywhere? Even if it were, there would be difficulties. How would you prove the meaningfulness of your life? How would you prove this is the end result of what I have lived, the significance and meaning? Forget it. There are no such courts. But in his mind, every person needs to have a court of his own wisdom, where he appears every moment. Every day, he should stand in front of it and ask himself, how am I living? Will something substantial happen by this? Will I gain anything out of it? Will I reach anywhere by it? Will it destroy death? When all these questions arise with great intensity in someone's mind, religiousness is born in its life. So first I would ask you to think about this. It is the basis for the next 3 days, when I will talk to you about the path on which we can turn aside from the direction of death and move in the direction of deathlessness. You too must be thinking that it would be good if your life was immortal. The desire must be arising in your mind that it would be good if you could avoid death. Unless the totally futility of our present life becomes clear to us, unless all our present way of living, our thought processes and movements in life are seen as worthless, until then, an authentic desire to find the deathlessness cannot be born in us. So today I would like to tell you to confront death face to face. I was traveling in the rainy season when I had to stop for a while by the side of the mountain river. My car had to stop there because the river was overflowing. There were 2 or 3 other cars behind my car, and they too had to stop. I didn't know the person in the car behind me, but seeing me sitting alone, he came and started a conversation with me. I was talking casually to him when suddenly he asked me, "What in life is worth thinking about most?" I told him, "There is only one thing which is worth thinking about, and that is death." We kept talking on many subjects. He told me he would surely meet me on his way back. I told him, "There is no guarantee that we will meet when you come back. Who knows, I may not be alive, or you may not be alive, or both of us may be alive, yet our paths may not cross." I told him a short story. I could never have imagined what was going to happen. As the flooding subsided and he was leaving, I told him this story. An emperor in China became angry with his prime minister. Although the emperor loved him immensely, he imprisoned him and sentenced him to death. It was the custom in his state that whenever someone was to be hanged, early in the morning on the day of execution, the king would personally go and meet him and fulfill his last wish. This was the case with the prime minister whom the king used to love immensely. But he had made a huge mistake which had angered the king, so he punished him with a death sentence. On the day of the hanging, the king came to the prime minister early in the morning. He got down from his horse and told him, "If you have any last wish, I will fulfill it." The moment he said this, the prime minister had tears in his eyes. The king was astonished. The prime minister was an utterly brave person. It was impossible that he would start crying. It was just impossible. The king was really surprised. "I am astonished to see tears in your eyes." Prime Minister said, "I am not crying because my death is fast approaching. I'm crying for another reason. I'm crying for your horse. King asked, What is there to cry about my horse? Minister said, After toiling for years, I have acquired an art. I have learned the science of making a horse fly. Never in my life have I come across a breed of horse which could learn to fly. But the horse you are riding belongs to a breed of horse. That breed of horses. That's why I'm crying. I've wasted my whole life learning that art because today I will be dead. The king thought that it would be unique if his horse could learn to fly. He said, Don't be afraid and don't cry. How long will it take for the horse to learn to fly? Just 1 year. If the horse can learn to fly, I will cancel your death sentence and you will be reinstated as Prime Minister. You will be given immense wealth and whatever you want. There is no problem in it. But if the horse does not learn to fly within that year, in a year time, you will be hanged. The Prime Minister mounted the horse and returned to his house. There people were weeping and crying about his death. Seeing him back home, everyone was surprised and they asked him, How come you back? He told the whole story, but his wife and children still continue to cry and weep. Stop crying. His wife said, I'm sure that you don't know of any art which can make horses fly. So what sort of foolishness is this? If you didn't die today, you will die after a year. But for us, this year will pass waiting for your death. We will anyway be grieving and in sorrow. If you wanted to deceive in this way, you should have asked for at least 20 or 50 years. The Prime Minister started laughing and said, You are unacquainted with the law of life. Who knows what will happen within a year? I may die. The horse may die, or the king may die. 1 year is a long time. Had I asked for 20 years, the king would not have dared to give them to me. 20 years would have been too long, so I asked for 1 year. Anything can happen in this 1 year. And then, in the story, an incident happened which no one could ever have foreseen. All three of them died within that 1 year. The king, the prime minister, and also the horse. Since the flood had subsided, he went back to his car. He said to me, I will definitely see you on my way back. Again, he was saying the same thing. It is such a habit with us that no matter how often someone explains things to us, we again start saying and doing the same thing. It happens with me every day. People ask me something and I explain. And then they come and ask something which is totally contrary to what I have said. So as he was leaving, he again said to me, I will surely meet you on my return. I am really glad to have met you. I just left. His car left ahead of me. And just after 2 miles or so down the road, I found him lying dead. His car had met with an accident and he had been killed. My driver said, This is really strange. Just now you were telling him the same thing. I tell you the same thing. There is no guarantee that when you start for home, you will reach it. There is no guarantee and no certainty. Today you may reach it, but tomorrow you may not. Just go from here thinking that tomorrow morning you won't be able to get up. What should you do? Depart from here with this thought. Tomorrow morning you won't be there. Then what should you do? Someday a morning will surely come when you won't be there. At least this much is certain. There is no reason to doubt it. There is no need to explain it either. There will certainly come a day when the sun will rise, but you won't be there. In life, nothing is more certain than death, but we hardly ever think about it. Everything else is uncertain. Everything else is doubtful. It is possible that God may or may not exist. It is possible that the soul may or may not exist. Yet there is one thing that is certain, one thing that is inevitable, and there is not the least doubt about it. Someone who is here now will not be here forever. Death will certainly come. There is no greater truth than death. We never think about our death. We always turn our backs on it. If anyone reminds you about it, you say, "Don't talk about such an ominous thing. Don't talk of any such things. Why talk about death?" Why not make these certain facts of life the primary element of contemplation? Why not create a philosophy of life keeping this in mind? Whatever the philosophy of life may be, why should it not be based on the foundation of death? The whole direction of life will change for someone who agrees to face it today. I will talk to you about how that path can be opened up. But tonight I only want to share this small thought with you, so that you can think about it and keep it in mind. Whatever you reaches in this life has no meaning. This much has to become clear to you. I am not telling you to drop everything. I am not telling you to run away. Just this much awareness should become clear to you. Living in the world means you must maintain the body. These things will still need to be done, but it does not end there. There is something else within you that has to be found. This you will also need to do. Earning your living, wearing clothes, all these things can become meaningful if your feet start moving in the direction of the soul. All these things will simply become significant in the search for the soul. They will become a background and the foundation for it. For a person who does not want to move toward godliness, life is simply like building a road, even though he doesn't want to go anywhere. All of us construct roads, but very few among us reach, because while we are building the roads, the thought of reaching somewhere does not occur to us at all. It is more important to ask oneself why one wants to live rather than just keep on making arrangements for living. Ask why one wants to exist, rather than just go on protecting one's existence. This thought should arise in your mind. Very few questions arise in our minds. But if questions don't arise, how can the search be born? If there is no desire to go on the search, how can you make any effort in that direction? So in these 3 days, I will by and by talk to you about all this. For tonight, I want to say that when you go to sleep, sleep with death. Anyone who has made friends with death has kept it close to him, has always taken the first step. Deathlessness will soon be with him. I won't say more. I will begin my talks tomorrow morning. Look death in the eye. Bring it close to you. If you start seeing your death and this thought and anxiety grips your mind, this has surrounded me from all the four sides. What should I do? How can I go beyond it if everything around me is going to be destroyed? What path should I search for to attain the indestructible? Only then is your coming here tomorrow meaningful. Chapter 2. Drop borrowed thoughts. Last night I talked about death. The search for life can only begin with death. Yesterday I primarily told you a few things about death and asked you not to keep death apart from you, but to confront it. During these 3 days I will talk to you in the morning, and in the evening I will discuss your questions. The thoughtless state means a state of mind in which we live blindly and don't think at all. The state of thinking means living consciously and thoughtfully. The state of no thought means to rise beyond all thoughts and to live in enlightenment. These are the 3 steps. Today, I will talk to you about the thoughtless state. All of us are living in this state. There is no thinking of any kind in our life. Our lives are directed by blind desire, blind lusts. We feel hungry, we feel thirsty, desires arise in us, and we are engaged in fulfilling them. We live just as the whole of nature does, blindly. Why does it rain? Why does the sun shine? There is no answer to it. A seed sprouts and becomes a tree. At the level at which we are living, there is no answer. We exist. We have an intense desire to live. So we go on living, but we simply have no answer as to why we exist. If I abuse you, you become angry. Why do you get angry at someone's abuse? Someone pushes you and violence arises in your mind. Why does it arise? Why do you find someone beautiful? Why do you find someone ugly? At the level of the body, there is no answer. We simply go on living without having any answers. Most people live at this level. They simply live without answers. At the level of the body, no answer to life can be found, and all of us live only at the level of the body. At the level of the body, there are problems, and we simply live to solve them. But always be aware that because the body has been born, it will die. The body is an utterly fixed machine of nature. Just as nature functions mechanically, similarly the body functions. As far as the level of the body is concerned, until now no one has become independent and no one has found immortal life. The body is utterly independent. There is no freedom there. Is there anything within us which is beyond the body, which transcends the body? Certainly, the mind, and we get a few glimpses of it. Every man is aware that he has a mind. He can hear the footsteps of his thoughts. When thoughts arises, in contemplation he gets some indication that the mind exists. The body is dependent, but the mind isn't. The mind can become independent, but ordinarily the mind is also dependent. At the level of the mind too, there is no freedom in our life. At the level of the mind, we are also dependent. But mind can become independent. That is the difference. The body is dependent and cannot become independent. The mind is also dependent, but it can become independent. Only a mind that is independent is capable of knowing the soul, which without doubt is free and alive, which is immortal, which knows no birth and no death. If the mind is dependent, it won't be able to know anything other than the body. A dependent mind cannot look beyond the dependent body. As long as our mind is dependent, we will feel that we are nothing other than the body. But if the mind is independent, it will raise its eyes toward the soul that is free. How can a person in whom individuality has not been born attain immortality? What do you have that you want to preserve? What do you have that you can say is yours, that you can say you have known and lived? If you don't have anything, then death is certain, and all that you have acquired from society will be useless. When you have something authentically your own in your mind, you start moving toward the soul. Then you become worthy, then you are able to know the soul. Until you have an independent mind, it is simply impossible for individuality to be born. In 1,001 ways, we have been prepared for slavery. In every way, there are efforts to make us a slave. And there are reasons for these efforts. It is in the interest of society that a person remains a slave. It is in interest of the state that a person remains a slave. The more enslaved a person is, the less possibility for him to revert. If a person's mind is completely dependent, he is no danger to society. Revolt and revolution become impossible. Society doesn't want anyone's mind to be independent. Hence, right from childhood, Society tries to every way to make a person dependent. Very few people think, most people simply quote. Then it makes no difference whether they quote Mahavira, whether they quote Buddha, whether they quote the Gita or the Quran. Belief is blind, belief is bondage, but moksha is ultimate freedom. How can you find moksha? Through belief. How can you find the soul? Through belief. Belief is simply blind. Why do we start believing in the first place? One can understand that believing is in the interest of the society. Believing is in the interest of the temples and the priests. The day you stop believing, that very day their whole business will collapse. We start believing because belief is available without making any effort. To think, you will have to go through pain, anxiety. So in the world of belief, we walk with the crowd. When thousands of people are walking along that highway, we don't feel afraid. Aristotle wrote that women have fewer teeth than men. In the West, this man is considered to be very intelligent. He is considered to be the father of logic. He did not have just one wife. He had two, but he never bothered to open his wife's mouth and count how many teeth she had. For thousands of years, it was believed in Greece that women have fewer teeth than men. Women are in such a pitiable state that they simply accept whatever the men say. For thousands of years, the crowd has believed in 1001 idiocies. There are many intelligent people in the crowd, but thinking never occurs to them because doubt never arises in their minds. I say to you that someone who doubts has found, and someone who believes is destroyed. There is no question about it. He was already destroyed the moment he started believing. Belief means I am blind and I accept whatever is being said. Doubt means I am not willing to be blind. I will think until and unless I experience it myself. I am not ready to believe. An individual experiences, but the society cannot experience. The society does not have a soul that can experience. The society is simply a dead machine. Hence, someone who remains dependent on the society, slowly he too becomes a machine. You must have heard about sannyasins escaping from renouncing the society, but they don't renounce. They renounce their home and their family, but no sannyasin renounces the society. If a sannyasin truly renounces the society, he certainly attains truth. Even after becoming a sannyasin, someone born into the Jaina religion says, I am a Jaina monk. This shows that he has not renounced the society. There is no point in escaping at the level of the body. The real question is of escaping at the level of the mind. I tell you not to escape at the level of the body. No one can escape at the body level. Even if a sannyasin thinks he has escaped at the body level, he has not really escaped because he has to come back to the society to ask for food. He has to come back to the society to ask for clothes. At the level of the body, how can one run away from the society? He could have become free at the level of the mind, but as he could not become free at that level, he has fallen into the arrogance of becoming free at the level where no one can become free. At the level of the body, no one can simply run away. At the level of the body, you have to live among the group. Even the greatest saint has to live with the support of the group. But he could have become free at the level of the mind. So I don't tell you that you should renounce the home and family. All that is simply madness. But if someone can drop the walls of the home, of the mind, if he can destroy the chains, freedom will begin in his life. So the first thing is this: doubt. Doubt whatsoever you have been taught. Doubt destroys the thoughtless state. Belief intensifies the thoughtless state. In thinking, there will certainly be pain. Thinking is austerity. Fasting is not austerity. Being hungry is not great austerity. Being thirsty is not great austerity. To doubt means to be ready to stand in insecurity, to be ready to stand in ignorance, to be ready to stand on one's own feet. As long as someone believes, his mind cannot gather enough strength to find the truth. It is only when we are insecure that we gather the strength. If you decide to be independent at the level of mind, no one in the world can deprive you of knowing your soul. If you do not have the courage, you cannot find life. Let me also tell you this: a slavery that lasts a long time becomes appealing. A slavery that lasts a long time starts appearing pleasant. You feel afraid of breaking free from it. During the French Revolution, revolutionaries broke into the Bastille. People have been imprisoned there for hundreds of years. It was the oldest prison in France, and they imprisoned the most heinous criminals there, prisoners who had been sentenced to life imprisonment. Some prisoners had been imprisoned there for 30 years, some for 40 years. So the revolutionaries thought that when they break open the prison, how happy the prisoners will feel upon being released. They went and broke open the prison and released the prisoners from the cells. Their hands and feet had been chained for years. Some had been chained for last 40 years. Some for the last 30 years. Someone had been imprisoned at the age of 20. Now he was 80 years old. So they broke the prisoner's chain and told them, "Go now, you all are independent." But the prisoners were stunned and said, "No, we are fine here. We will feel terrible outside. We have spent 60 years of our life here. We have even started liking them." But the revolutionaries were stubborn, and that day they forcibly brought them up from the cells. The next day they were released. When they were brought up from the cells, but still inside the prison, they were crying, saying that they didn't even want to be there. And when they were released, told they could leave, they were even more upset because they didn't want to go outside. By the evening, half of the prisoners have returned to the prison. This is a unique incident in history. Those prisoners said, "Forgive us. We were absolutely fine here. We don't feel good outside. Without the chains, we feel naked. Without the chains, we feel as if our body has lost weight. We don't feel good without them." At the level of the body, there are chains. And at the level of mind, there is also chains. And we simply don't feel good without them. If I tell you not to be a Hindu for a while, you will start feeling very uneasy. If I tell you to stop being a Hindu or a Jaina or a Christian, as these are all slavery, and to start being just a man, you will become very restless. Just think a little, contemplate a little, gather a little courage and gather some reserve. You need to have reserve if you want to go on a search for religion, a search for truth. Nietzsche had written that the first and the last Christian was crucified. The first and the last, he wrote it about Christ. So if the first and the last Christian died on the cross, what about the Christians who came after him? Who are these Christians? What's it all about? The Christians who came after him cannot become Jesus, because to become Jesus, you need to have individuality. A follower of Mahavira can never become Mahavira, because to become Mahavira, your soul has to be independent. So this morning I want to tell you that in the thoughtless state, faith and beliefs do not allow man's mind to become independent. So as I have said, the body is unavoidably dependent, and the soul is unavoidably independent. The mind can be independent as well as dependent. It is in your hands which your mind is. If you want to keep your mind only dependent, you won't be able to know anything beyond the body. I say to you, don't just believe that the soul exists. As of now, don't believe this. Right now, you only need to know that your mind is dependent, and you have to fill yourself with the longing to make it independent. I have said a few things about the thoughtless state, about belief. Tomorrow I will talk about how our minds can become independent. People must have told you that a religious person is calm and contented. But I don't tell you that a religious person is utterly discontented with his life. He is utterly disturbed. I don't want to give you any teaching. I want to give you discontentment. Many of you must have come here with the idea of attaining peace. I want to make you disturbed because those who cannot get totally disturbed will simply never be able to find peace. May existence make you discontented. May your sleep get disturbed and everything start appearing futile to you.